We saw some situations where like Caitlin's stuck guarding Kelsey and Kelsey's, knocking her off the ball and Caitlin gets called for a foul and she starts yelling at the refs like, she's grabbing me, and all of the coaches from WNBA teams who were sitting there watching are just cracking up. Kelsey had one situation where she sort of finished through traffic. She'd been struggling a little bit, got through to the hoop, just like yells right in like Becky Hammon and Nikki Fargas's face, and they're just like cracking up like
Keep your eyes on the intensity here. Kelsey Plum physically jostling Caitlin Clark off the ball, and Clark firing up the refs over a grab. Meanwhile, every WNBA coach in the gym is trying not to laugh. This isn't just a casual scrimmage, it's a full-blown fight for an Olympic roster spot, unfolding live at USA Basketball's training camp in North Carolina. And according to Sabrina from The Athletic, who witnessed it all firsthand, what went down over those 3 days could completely shake up the conversation around who makes the Olympic team. Because based on her account of Clark's play, this isn't a contender hoping to secure a spot. This is a player who's already proven she belongs.
And Clark being back on the court, you also got a quote out of Sue Bird about her being impressed with Caitlin just being engaged while she was out and getting back to being able to play. A little bit about what Caitlin looked like on the court, how much fun she was having, how important it was. And then someone else, Angel Reese on the other side, talking about Chicago. That was the article I was not expecting.
Yeah, so we'll start with Caitlin. Obviously, she suffered a lot of just a bevy of injuries in her sophomore season, played her last game on July 15th, even before All-Star Weekend. This was her first real 5-on-5 action since.
Now this is where it gets really compelling. Caitlin Clark hasn't stepped onto a competitive court since July 15th, 2024. That's the day plantar fasciitis forced her to sit out the rest of the Indiana Fever season. No games, no full court action, just months spent rehabbing and recovering. Meanwhile, the 4 Phoenix Mercury players at this camp only wrapped up their season on September 11th. That's a huge difference in timing and in game readiness. So when Sabrina describes seeing Clark back in a live game scenario, she's talking about a player who's been sidelined longer than anyone else there, suddenly thrown into FIA level intensity. And here's the key, FIA basketball is even more physical than the WNBA. Pause for a second, this is the league where the 2024 season was consumed by debates over whether physical play against Clark crossed the line. FIA doesn't hold back, it hits even harder.
It was a combination of like USA players going against USA players and then also USA players going against the scout team, which was just like players from small colleges all across North Carolina sort of helping out with that scout team practice. And, she looked like Caitlin, right? Like the step back three was there, the passes were there. When she was not playing with Aaliyah Boston, some of the bigs didn't know what to do with their passes. Like there was one time where she passed it to Wnba and Wnba like brought the ball down. It's like, you can't do that. Like this is not, you have to keep it up, right?
Straight up, right.
Just like not expecting, where that was coming. But FIBA, naturally, just a lot more physical than other levels of basketball. Even
notice what she just said about those passes. Caitlin is sending the ball to bigs who aren't always sure what to do with it. Enrique Ogunbowale catches it, tries to bring it down, and gets blocked because the pass lands exactly where it needs to be for immediate action. This isn't a knock on Enrique, it's what happens when you're playing with a facilitator on a whole different level. Chelsea Gray dishes passes that are beautiful and flashy, fun to watch, but Caitlin Clark's passes carry a different kind of intelligence. She's not just handing you the ball, she's placing it perfectly so you can catch and finish in one smooth motion. No hesitation, no extra touches, no time for defenders to react. That's elite level facilitating, thinking several steps ahead about not just where the ball should go, but how it should arrive. When you play with someone like Aaliyah Boston every game, that chemistry develops naturally. But with Enrique, at a first-time training camp, there's a learning curve. The fact that Sabrina singled this out shows just how impressive Clark's vision and timing were. She was making passes that even top WNBA players didn't see coming.
Physicality was interesting considering how long she's been out and the fact that she's still ramping up injury-wise, but she looked good. She was just like so happy to be there and like was individually like telling media members how nice it was just to like talk to them again and like that she was just part of the basketball process, even if that includes.
This wasn't just WNBA level physicality, it was FIA level intensity coming from the scout team. And Caitlin Clark still easing back from the plantar fasciitis that sidelined her for 2 months of her sophomore season, was going head to head with players trained to compete under international basketball's tougher, more physical standards. Think back to all the debates during the 2024 season about whether Clark was being overchecked. The flagrant fouls, the body contact, the talk about rookies being specifically targeted. By comparison, FIA basketball makes that look gentle. International rules allow harder contact, more aggressive defense, and overall higher physical demands. Yet according to Sabrina, even as the player furthest from peak game shape at the entire camp, Clark handled that level of physicality impressively. She wasn't just surviving, she was competing.
To have it, fam, Caitlin Clark been an absolute beast at the training camp. Shout out to her, man. Now, I already kind of knew Kelsey Plum and Caitlin Clark was going to be going after it. All right, those are two players battling for that one position, right? And these are two players that absolutely asked crowds to give it to him.
Now, pay attention here. That step back three, it's still lethal. The same signature shot that shattered the NCAA scoring record, transitioned flawlessly to the WNBA, and became one of the most unguardable moves in women's basketball. She still has it. Even against the best defenders at USA basketball camp, it's working. But what Sabrina highlights next is even more revealing. Caitlin wasn't just playing. She was genuinely happy to be there, taking the time to reconnect with teammates and appreciating simply being part of the game again. Think about what this shows. After a sophomore season cut short in July by injury, months of rehab, and watching the playoffs from the sidelines, Clark returned to this camp and reminded everyone who she is. Not through trash talk, not through drama, but through sheer performance. With that deadly step back three, with passes that left elite players caught off guard, and with the ability to handle FIA level physicality while getting back into game shape, Caitlin Clark made it clear she's not just back, she's operating at a whole new level.
You saw some situations where like Caitlin's stuck guarding Kelsey and Kelsey's, knocking her off the ball and Caitlin gets called for a foul and she starts yelling at the refs like, she's grabbing me, and all of the coaches from WNBA teams who were sitting there watching are just cracking up. Kelsey had one situation where she sort of finished through traffic. She'd been struggling a little bit, got through to the hoop, just like yells right in like Becky Hammond and Nikki Fargas's face, and they're just like cracking up. Like,
watch that moment with Kelsey Plum again. Two elite players fighting for the same spot, both fueled by pure competitive fire. Kelsey Plum once even told Spike Lee to turn up the trash talk. She wanted to hear it louder. Caitlin Clark, on the other hand, spent her college career feeding off hostile crowds, using every cheer and jeer to elevate her game. Now imagine them facing off. According to Sabrina's report, that's exactly what happened at the camp. Kelsey knocking Clark off the ball, Clark immediately calling out the refs for a missed call. WNBA coaches watching couldn't help but smile. They knew they were witnessing something special. Two top-tier guards giving everything, refusing to back down. And here's the bigger picture. Clark isn't here to win fans or prove herself with words. She's here to compete for a roster spot against one of the league's best. And even as the player furthest from game shape in the building, she held her own every step of the way.
Right. Stirring it up. I love that. I love that you could see the storylines continue from the W season into, this camp. And I want to particularly hit on.
Watch Kelsey Plum drive through traffic, finishing strong despite earlier struggles, and then yelling straight at Becky Hammond and Nikki Collins, while the coaches can't stop laughing. Classic Kelsey. That's the kind of competitive fire that earns respect, a recognition of a player who refuses to back down. But pay attention to what Sabrina also highlighted. The storylines from the WNBA season didn't stay behind. They carried right into this camp. Caitlin and Kelsey going head to head, Clark showing frustration with the refs, and every player bringing the same intensity that defined the 2024 season into these scrimmages. That continuity matters because this isn't just practice, it's competition with real stakes. Carol Lawson is watching. USA basketball staff are evaluating. WNBA coaches are taking notes. And every single player in the gym knows that how they perform here could directly influence Olympic roster selections.
We wrote about that on the site, just like how people have been perceiving the negotiations and what still affects them and what they're thinking about with regards to the new collective bargaining agreement. But for now, just good time at camp, 3 days in North Carolina. A little snow on one of the days, just a little taste of the winter in the South. But
right.
Yeah, it was Interesting just to see what Carol Lawson is prioritizing in terms of how she wants to make her imprint on this program.
Here's why this is so significant. When USA Basketball left Caitlin Clark off the 2024 Olympic roster, the official reasoning focused on roster balance, veteran experience, and the need for players familiar with the program. The decision sparked huge debate, with fans arguing that the league's brightest star and most exciting player deserved a spot regardless of her experience. But remember, this decision came before Caitlin had played a single WNBA game, before she averaged 19 points and 9 assists in her first 5 games, before she notched a triple-double and proved that her college dominance could translate seamlessly to the professional level, even while facing constant physical play and learning to gel with new teammates. Now it's January 2025. Caitlin has completed a full WNBA season. Even if injuries cut it short, she's shown she can compete at the highest level. She's developed chemistry with teammates, experienced playoff intensity, and, according to the latest training camp reports, is giving USA Basketball a first-hand look at exactly what they missed. The step-back three still deadly against elite defenders, passing vision that leaves veteran WNBA players off balance, competitive fire that has her calling out refs in scrimmages, the ability to handle FIA-level physicality while being the most out-of-game shape player in the gym. This isn't a player hoping to earn a roster spot. This is a player reminding everyone why leaving her off the 2024 roster was a mistake. Sabrina's report makes it crystal clear. Clark made an impression. The level of detail she highlights, the tone of her account, it wasn't just a strong return to the court, it was a statement. Consider the timing. Clark's last competitive game was July 15th, 2024. Plantar fasciitis ended her season early, forced her to miss the playoffs, and left her watching from home while other teams battled for a championship. That's months of recovery, rehabilitation, and uncertainty about when she could play at full strength again. Then she arrives at this training camp and immediately jumps into 5-on-5 action against the nation's best players, facing FIA-level physicality from the scout team, with WNBA coaches scrutinizing every possession. No easing in, no low-stakes exhibition games. Straight into elite competition after months off the court. The fact that Sabrina reports Clark looked good in that context, that her signature moves were still there, and that she was making plays that surprised veteran players speaks volumes about her preparation. She wasn't just rehabbing an injury, she was maintaining her skills, staying sharp, and preparing for this exact moment. Now compare that to the 2024 Olympic roster narrative. USA Basketball prioritized experience and familiarity over star power and excitement. They selected players who had been through the system, knew the program, and had international experience. That was their approach. But here's the problem with that strategy. The underlying assumption is that talent and competitive fire alone aren't enough without program experience. It assumes that a player who has dominated at every level needs years of international seasoning before she can contribute to Team USA. But Caitlin Clark has already proven that narrative wrong. She shattered the NCAA scoring record. She turned Iowa into a national championship contender. She brought unprecedented attention to women's college basketball. Then she stepped into the WNBA and immediately became one of the league's most electrifying players, despite facing constant physical play and adjusting to new teammates. At what point does her track record speak for itself? When does USA Basketball say, maybe we should make room for this talent? This training camp report answers that question. Clark doesn't need years of international experience to compete at this level. She needs the chance. And when given that opportunity, she delivered. Passes that catch veteran players off guard. Step back threes that hit against elite defenders. Competitive fire that has her battling Kelsey Plum for every possession and calling out refs mid-scrimmage. The ability to handle FIA-level physicality while still regaining full game shape. This isn't potential, it's performance. She proved in real time that she belongs on this roster. And consider what it means for USA Basketball moving forward. The 2024 Olympics are over, but the next cycle has already begun. Training camps like this are part of the evaluation process, and Carol Lawson is laying the groundwork for the future. According to Sabrina's report, she's prioritizing certain traits, evaluating players in specific scenarios, and building toward what comes next. Clark just showed exactly what she can do when given the chance to compete. Will USA Basketball adjust its approach? Will they recognize recognize that leaving their most exciting player off a roster might not be the smartest strategy for the program's future? Or will they stick to prioritizing experience over star power? Sabrina's report doesn't answer that, but it does make one thing crystal clear. Caitlin Clark arrived at this training camp, competed against elite players, handled FIA-level physicality, and performed despite months away from the game. Her step-back three was there, her passes were there, her competitive fire was on full display, everything that makes her one of the most exciting players in basketball shown in North Carolina. The question now is, what will USA Basketball do with that? Will they continue favoring veterans and program familiarity, or will they acknowledge that sometimes talent and competitive drive outweigh years in the system? Because if this camp proves anything, it's that Caitlin Clark doesn't need anyone's permission to prove she belongs. She just needs the opportunity, and when given that opportunity, she delivers. That's what happened in college. That's what happened in her rookie WNBA season. And according to Sabrina's eyewitness account, that's exactly what happened at USA Basketball's training camp. The ball is now in USA Basketball's court. They've seen her compete, observed her against the nation's best, and watched her navigate FIA-level physicality while ramping back into game shape. How they respond will reveal their priorities moving forward and decide whether the most exciting player in women's basketball gets the chance to represent her country at the highest level. Let me know in the comments. Do you think Caitlin Clark should make the next Olympic roster based on this performance? Or will USA Basketball stick with their veteran-first approach? Because this conversation is far from over.